Um, so I had the pleasure a couple years ago of visiting New England, and one of the highlights of my trip was paddling with Mark in Newport Harbor, and it was amazing to me to see what he was accomplishing there. And I think I'm just going to turn it over to Mark, and I think Mark, I don't know how you want to handle this, but I think I think we all have challenges like trying to get the program started in our districts. Uh, at the very least, we have to explain it to people and get it accepted. Uh, Most people don't have a clue kind of what it means to go on patrol in a kayak or in two kayaks, or how do we line up with all the other programs? And I think Mark and Mike Maloney up in One North have really uh, worked through a lot of those challenges really very successfully. Uh, and I thought it'd be good just to give you a chance to share what your experience has been over the years, and kind of focusing on the mission of paddlecraft safety outreach, how you've been able to accomplish that, both within the auxiliary and outside the auxiliary. So, Mark.
Thanks, Ron. I think I'll I'll start where I'll end up, and then walk us back through some things. And I hope everybody here. I want to express a lot of thanks to just about everyone on this phone call who I've either paddled with or been on calls with, and had a lot of takeaways from. So hopefully, I'll leave you all with a few takeaways that might get you thinking, and that you'll give me some more counsel in the process. Let me just talk about the why, the what, the how, and then some of the challenges and some of the really key lessons learned. The why for me was a personal focus. I was involved in paddling and paddle safety before joining the auxiliary. I joined in 2020. Um, and so the mission has always been the same. It's all about how do we have more paddlers on the water who are paddling more safely and building a community of safety. It's not just about the individual paddler, but really for me, how do we build a community of paddlers where our norms are safety, and we're learning from each other by observation or otherwise. The what, I do three things. I wear three paddle related hats. I share the District 1 North Region co-coordinator position currently with Jim Walsh. I began learning from co-coordinator Mike Maloney. Mike really paved the way for us in District 1 North Region. I'm also the paddlecraft safety officer for the Newport Harbor Master. That's a employed position. I work on the payroll 6 months out of the year, and then as a volunteer in the off season, putting trainings and other things together. And I'm also the state Rhode Island State Director of the ACA. All that means I'm retired, time on my hands. Don't know how to say no, I guess. Um, the projects um, are all interrelated, and that gets to the bottom line for me, which is um, we have actually been very successful in reaching a lot of paddlers, but we wouldn't have been able to do it without partnerships. If we tried to do it simply as the auxiliary, we would have reached some people, but we wouldn't have had that many numbers. Um, doing it simply through the auxiliary, we really can't teach on the water, demonstrate on the water, and where I'm finding the highest demand is for on-water demonstrations, on-water education, on-water activities. The good news is anytime we do those, we can pair them with Oxpad Ashore and leverage the occasion. Um, in the Harbor Master portion of the program, I now have a second paddler on the water this year. We reach one-on-one about 700 paddlers each season. And that means one-on-one contact on the water. talking to them about where they're paddling, reminding them that it's, state law to wear a life jacket, customer relations, turning them on to resources. And then also as the harbor master, we created a paddling guide to the 8 put-in points in Newport that are heavily promoted as good places to paddle, most of which are not. So we created a guide to here's the hazards, here's what you need to look for at each put-in point. And we were pretty excited to learn that it was the ninth most downloaded content on the entire city of Newport's website last year. So clearly, there's a lot of interest in paddle safety, and that gives us an objective measure. The other thing that the Harbor Master program has done is through because we're connected to the law enforcement community, and because we're part of what in Narragansett Bay is Marine One. Um, it means constant meetings with the Rhode Island Department of Environmental Management, law enforcement, meeting with the other harbor master entities. So it's been a great springboard for opening the door to more awareness and activation by the entities that are already on the water. Through the ACA, we have a really excellent organization, the Rhode Island Canoe and Kayak Association, that's really they're an ACA affiliate. They run a lot of great programs, great tours, paddles. So I've simply just reached out to them and said, if you need me, call me. But where I've used the ACA relationship is to build entree to state parks, the state parks and recreation, where they have a very high demand for both shoreside and on water paddle education. We only did the shoreside programs this year, but with this fantastic new curriculum that the ACA, with a lot of involvement with Robin Pope and others, I'm really hoping that we can get the state potentially to maybe adopt this curriculum and use all of its channels and its staff as a point to get us out there further. As far as the District 1 North Region OXPAD program, our ashore team has been really highly productive. A lot of people running events. They run events well. They run events very professionally, write content. We have over the last, as far as a float goes, we have over the last 3 years qualified, it's either 12 or 13 operators, three, soon to be four qualifiers. Where we're challenged is that District 1 North is pretty widely spread out. So the ability to deploy patrols, meeting all the requirements of tandem paddlers and so forth. I think there's been a couple, but we really are still at this point spread too thin to be yet to be an effective on-water resource. But there's a lot of motivation. A lot of the team really wants to do that. We have a minor glitch in that we had great gold side relationships with both Durox and the OTO. Our best friend Durox retired recently. Our OTO, who's been a big proponent, is been given additional roles along with the Coast Guard budget cutbacks. So Jim and I have talked about we really have to build new bridges to the gold side, and we're not going to let that slow us down. But I think, Roland, to what you were saying is this is where that being able to pivot to a harbor master or pivot to ACA from an on water situation it gives us a lot of options. We don't have to sit and wait. We can keep moving forward. For some of the events that we've held, we've simply had our operators who are also ACA people. We've said, okay, the ashore people, you be ashore as the auxiliary, but if we're going to give on-water demonstrations, the rest of us will just convene as ACA folk on the water and give the demonstration as ACA people. So it allows us the ability to um, keep an auxiliary presence, but also do the things that the event or the environment demands. And I think some other districts are doing that as well, but the flexibility really matters. The last thing, and then I'll let you kind of direct what some of what you want to know is, my professional life before I retired, I spent 30 years as a health behavior and environmental behavior change advisor to public health departments around the world and worked, behavior change is part people side variables, the skills people learn, the norms they encounter, and such. But a lot of it is also place driven. What does policy look like? What does the environment look like? Does the environment support that behavior change? And so part of um, what I like about the partnership piece is we have a variety of channels to work on one-on-one behavior. We have a chance to work on community building. Like, for example, we have a big boaters organization here that after a couple meetings with them, that they now teach paddle safety and relationships to boaters. So they're helping us build a culture of respect on the water, of boater to paddler, paddler to boater. So we're starting to work on that. And then environmentally, through the harbor master and eventually through the state, like through the harbor master, I'm writing two ordinances right now. One ordinance is going to require every rental company that rents a paddlecraft in Newport to have their staff take a certain level of training and have them dispense a certain level of orientation to their renters. So it gives us that opportunity to change where if our goal, the mission is safety, we want to change interpersonal, intrapersonal skill and behavior, interpersonal community, and then work on legislation and stuff. And so, it takes a village. It's taken everyone on the Aux side. It's taken a willing harbor master. It's taken the work that many of you have done with ACA. And where I see this group, it's one of the best things. Despite all that, there are a lot of different places I go. This is my professional community. When I have a challenge, I get in touch with Roland, or I get in touch with Joey, or I get in touch with Chris. So I think we all of us in this coordinators group play a vital role of sharing experience and supporting one another while we figure out where's the leverage and what's it going to look like in a few years. So I'll stop there. That's probably more than enough.
Well, that's a lot of material. Uh, like I said, I think it's really just amazing how many facets of partnership there have been that you've been able to reach out into. And let me just open it up. Like what kind of comments or questions do other people have, and and how might this relate to some of your experience in other districts? Well, let me ask you this: like, how did you get started? I guess. Um, I think like when I visited, it was clear you had a really strong uh, relationship with the harbor master, and they appreciated the work you're doing, and they actually put you on the payroll because I guess I couldn't figure out how to deal with the insurance otherwise. Um, but how do you how do you get started there? How do you get started with some of the other partner organizations that you've been able to work with?
I guess I think it's a lot like dating, right? You don't walk right in and ask somebody to marry you. Um, with the harbor master, I just asked for a meeting. I talked to him a little bit about. I asked him a lot of questions. What issues do you have with paddlers on the water? Do you have any challenges? Does it matter to you? And but not surprisingly, in a real busy environment like Newport, he had a lot of issues. And I said, "Would you like me to work on some of those with you?" And I explained a little about my relationships with the Coast Guard and the ACA. Um, that was really important to him because I was able to say, "Look, I'm not just some guy that has some ideas about paddle safety. These organizations have done some amazing work." And he said, "What would you do first?" And I said, "I'll write your proposal." And basically, I proposed doing a couple of classes for him, and talking to his staff about their interests in paddlers. And then he was the one that said, "You got to write something about why it's not safe to paddle in Newport." I said, "All right, well, let's work on the guide." So, I think it's a matter of like any sales, it was trying to assess his needs first and then draw from the toolkit to meet the needs that were most important to him. Same thing with the state had reached out through the auxiliary because they could not find anyone to teach paddle safety, which was kind of surprising to me, but that was their challenge. And same thing. What did they want to teach? What were the problems they were trying to solve? What would they like to do? And that was pretty straightforward. They have since asked they would like to run a vessel safety check program at the state parks. They would like on-water instruction. And I've been letting the clutch out really slowly because while there are two other AuxPAD members in Rhode Island, they're not that active, so we have very limited bandwidth. I'm very excited that we formed a great relationship with Chris Howe down in District 1 South. They may be able to come up this way and help out. So I think it's like anything. I think it's, you really you find through our own professional knowledge, we tend to know where the challenges are, but to the gatekeeper, you can't go and tell the gatekeeper what he or she needs. You got to go to the gatekeeper and talk to them about their challenges related to paddling. And then if the solution is a aux solution, deliver it. If the solution is an ACA solution, deliver it. And then once the relationship is built, I think it just kind of takes on a life of its own.
You mentioned you've only got two other Oxpad members in Rhode Island. What about the ACA side? Are there people that like how well do you know the other ACA members, I guess? And are there some of those people that have indicated an interest in this kind of work?
Yeah, the Rhode Island Canoe and Kayak Association as an affiliate has been very helpful in terms of opening up their communication channels. So if there's anything to promote, if there's a need to recruit, they will put out notices, use their e-blast, use their website, do those kind of things. When we ran a paddle festival last year, they came up, set up a tent, did some specialty things. They're, very open to, um, while there's like all volunteer organizations, they're spread pretty thin, but if you have content to drop in or a program to run, they'll get people there and they'll help out. So they've been useful. We don't have that many ACA instructors in Rhode Island anymore. I've done some outreach, but I haven't really had a specific ask. I think if we become a state that really goes after this new smart curriculum, then that would give me something really specific to say to the ACA community. Hey, we're going to be launching this and we need instructors to do that.
Mhm.
Part of the barrier has been a lot of the people that instruct need to get paid. understandably. And a lot of the people that want to put on programs have no way to pay instructors. So one of the things I've got to work on is letting organizations know that you can't just say, I want people to come give up their Saturday and deliver a level one or level two course and not get compensated for it. So there's an education process there on the ACA side, but I think the more tangible of an ask, the more likely there will be. I also found our local, we have one big um, kayak store, retail store, the Kayak Center, and they're really great. When we did the paddle festival, they brought all kinds of boats so we could demo different boats. They say anything we want to teach at the store, that's great. The store is available to teach. They'll do things. So, it's incremental. Um, I I'm really fortunate to have, like, at the D1 North level, Jim is a really strong co-coordinator. Um, I would love to have a strong partner here in the state. I just hired someone to work with me in the harbor master department, and she may be that partner, but it's really recognizing that with growth comes the demand for, person power.
Yeah. Um, I can, my experience in District 5 South, I can say uh, how important that internal partnership really is. And, it's just, Joey has just like done amazing things in Northern Virginia and Maryland and DC. Uh, and I think that's right. I think it's really hard for one person to be just kind of the coordinator for the district and try to really move the ball very much. I think it's really important to have some teamwork on that.
I think you raised a good point. I'd be interested in hearing from some of the other folks that are on the call, because some I know, some I don't. This rate limiting factor, whether it's just, you know, the gold side changes and things slow down, or, we have four invested people and we can't seem to get that incremental doubling. I feel like we're pretty limited in bandwidth right now. I think we may have hit the best that we can do without more people, more resources. Kind of interested if anyone has found a way to, I know, Ron, for example, I think sounds like you and Joey always have a fair amount of people around. Not that the two of you aren't the energy engine, but how did you scale, or how is anyone trying to scale what they're doing?
Joey, do you have or Michelle, others? Holly?
Think for us, we've been getting a little bit more interest, and I think it's just us promoting it, talking about it, talking at D Train, trying to get other auxiliarists pumped up and involved, and just, making sure that we blast out, hey, when we did the Oswego Paddle Fest, like, and we're running patrols on the canals, like things like that. And they to get other auxiliarists excited about it. But on the flip side, also to try to recruit people that we meet in the kayaking community and drag them kicking and screaming into the auxiliary and try to get them to come aboard and to help out, because it's all about recruitment. The ones that, I mean, when we took over here, there was, I think, there were eight Oxpad in our district, and most of them were aging out and not wanting to do it anymore. And so it was really, we had just less than a handful of people that were actually still actively wanting to do things with Oxpad. And they were moving on to other things, or just, couldn't get in and out of their kayak anymore, other medical issues. So it's trying to find that new blood to and that interest to drag people into to want to do it.
What
One
do
of
you
the
think's
things
been
that
your most compelling hook?
I
Um,
was just going to address that. One of the things that helped us immensely was when we had our Auxpad Academy last year. We got everybody qualified at it. We just made it so much fun that word of mouth really helped us a lot. You know, like if you guys are thinking about doing this Auxpad thing, do it because it was just so much fun.
Uh,
Okay.
Kelly, you've got your hand up.
Yeah, I hope you can hear me. I'm on South Bass Island right now and there's not much service.
Very well.
Um I'm also a state director. I'm the Ohio State Director. And I have two questions. One, how do you deal with the auxiliary hierarchy not seeing the value, or I don't want to say seeing the value, not believing that AuxPad is as important as other areas?
We actually are very fortunate here that our leadership sees the value in it. The biggest way that excuse me that we were able to do it is we put together such a presentation of Holly does the Assure program, Holly does the Afloat program, I do the Assure program. We literally, when we do our D-Train presentations, we put the value into it. That this, and this is what they're getting out of it. This past E-Train that we did in March, our DSO, Commodore Lauer, asked us to actually forward that on to everybody within the district and talk to them about it and explain to them, look, paddlecraft is the up and coming sport with the price of gas, the price of materials, everything for boating. This is becoming the more economical way to go for people to be on the water. However, it's also the most dangerous way for people to be on the water. So there's been a lot of value in it for us in the way that we do our presentations to grab that hook. Using here in District 9ER, they're very big on statistics. So to say to them, you know, here's the deaths. And it kind of speaks for itself, especially here in New York, because we have so many deaths a year.
So, one of the things that Scott Cispaniak's always talking about is the strategic plan. Uh, and it talks about the importance of paddlecraft and the mission of the auxiliary being focused on recreational boating safety. Uh, so I think that's an important point, and I think everything you can do to educate the gold side is really important. Uh, and there's a lot of ways to do that. We had down in Charleston, we had some representation from the gold side. One of the students was active duty. We had some people from the local Coast Guard station, both on the water with us and at our welcome dinner. Uh, and then on a couple of occasions, I've had our local station officers and our OTO for uh, 5 South come down and get out on the water with us, and we just had like a little session just for them to say, okay, this is kind of what we do in training. We work on rescues, we work on uh, getting comfortable with strokes and bracing, and just kind of knowing our limits. And just kind of talk them through what the whole program is, and I think a lot of that is just kind of getting the credibility, that these guys actually do know what they're talking about. There is a program here. Uh, we can answer their questions, uh, and 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 I think getting them on the water is really valuable. Like if you can show them, okay, you guys might be 30 years old and really fit, but you're not getting back into your kayaks very well. You know, the skills are important. there are things that you can learn from us. Uh, so I think there's a lot of different ways to do it, but I think sort of getting to know those the gold side people uh, is pretty valuable.
I
Yep.
support that, but everybody who's saying that, we had our OTO took the a whole 2 day academy with us, which was great. And same thing, very fit, very fit guy. That it wasn't as easy as it came out to be, but it was the total credibility of the pre everything we did ashore before going out on the water, the way that on the water we take care of each other and are very mindful. He commented on particularly the amount of individual attention that we gave to the different members, because we've always had a full spectrum of fitness levels, skill levels on the water. That made a big difference. It also really helped, and it's an area I'm not very good at, and I'm hoping Jim will become very good at, is um, Mike Maloney was always really on top of the paperwork, and he really knew how to get things in and when to get them in and exactly where to get them in and do all that. And I think making their lives easier was a real plus. And I'm not as strong in that area, where we've had some challenges, not in terms of negativity, but our own auxiliary chain of leadership, depending on who held the office. There were some people that even it just wasn't a thing, where there would be competition between, well, the person who heads up VE doesn't want any OXPAD involvement in VE. So there was a lot of just, it's all the interpersonal things. But I think we had great gold side support for just doing things right. It'll be interesting to see with new gold side leadership, how we start that process again and if it'll continue. But I definitely think the data is great. I heard data, the on water experiences, and sort of this constant checking in. Are we helping the gold side get done what they want to get done? And a lot of that was on the yeoman who handled the paperwork. Keep the yeoman happy, everybody else was happy in the office. So getting paperwork done on time for trainings, when the yeoman was happy, the rest of the gold side was happy.
Chuck, you've got your hand up.
Yeah, so one of the things that uh, we as a team have tried to push here in District 7, and Scott Sapaniak has been a big proponent of that, is anytime that you're holding a training session, push the aspect of having fun with it. Scott and Joey as well, is a big proponent of showing people how fun it can be. The second thing is that throughout your district, go to each division and see if there's somebody that wants to champion the program in their area. Natalie Bunning is a big proponent of mine down south. Don Rice is great in the Tampa area. Uh, Melissa Lawson, Carolyn Cotrus are fantastic people. Walter Ronk up in the South Carolina area, Dan Valero over in the Georgia area. Uh, all of those folks really helped me out as the coordinator, pushing the program and to various levels of success. And I've got a fantastic support on the gold side this go around. It hasn't always been the same thing in the past. There's been various levels of support, various pushback, uh, and various proponents as well. The auxiliary side has been catch as catch can as far as division leadership and district leadership goes. Right now, everything is running good on the district side. A couple of the divisions are slow on the uptake, but the biggest thing is no matter how many times you run up against a wall, just keep pushing. Go through it, around it, whatever you got to do to keep the program going. And sometimes you do have to take a break for your own sanity, and that's understandable with everybody. But when you come back with a renewed vigor and keep pushing the program both on the ashore side, especially as well as the afloat side. Some folks are more proponent and more acceptable of the program than others. Anybody that pushes back as really really hard, just remind them of their oath to the auxiliary to promote the commandant's programs as best as they can. And AuxPad is a one of the commandant's programs. So sometimes they have to be reminded of that. Hopefully that's not always the case, but if you run into those, just let them know.
Chuck,
All right.
I think it's remarkable in the last, I'm going to say, year and a half, how much progress has been made in District 7. Uh, and I'm not sure exactly what all that is. It seems like there's a lot of new faces, and people are getting on the water and learning. I mean, there's a lot of energy there. I think that
I've got a fantastic team down here. I couldn't praise the team that's in District 7 enough. Between Don and Carolyn and Melissa and all the folks that are involved. Great work on the state liaison side by Anda Ray. And Scott is, uh, I mean, he has gone so far into helping out down here. It's not even funny. I mean, it's
I,
fantastic having him
I think
as
Scott is unique in the in the organization, and it would be really nice if he weren't. Um, I think that would be I think that's something we should all be trying to do is to identify the boating safety specialist in our districts, and try to establish a relationship with them, um, because I think
Yeah, boating safety specialist as well as your state liaisons. I mean, the state liaisons getting that interaction going, as well as your state reps and reps through the ACA. I mean, all of that is partnerships and resources that we can uh, pull from. That's for sure.
Michelle.
My other question,
Okay.
sorry, my other question was, how are you guys getting funding for the Oxpad academies to bring ITs in?
So the funding is very tight. We have we put in proposals to the Auxiliary Association, and our budget gets cut severely. I'd say one of the most important things is to just try to manage your costs. Try to keep your costs as low as possible. Uh, we've got some people that have given money, donated money to the program. We've got tuition. We had a registration for Charleston of $100, uh, and we got some money from the association. But it's all very. I think if you looked at the budgets for some of the other training that's done in the auxiliary, they have much bigger budgets than we do. I think we're accomplishing a lot with very low budgets. And I think I'm seeing that, up in District 9. I think people are being very creative. If you can find ways to, I know Joey's done this. We've run Oxpad Academy down here on the Outer Banks, and it was really basically everybody paid their own way. You just try to keep the cost down. So we don't have any magic answer about like how to get the funding, but I think a lot of it is people got to have a good time. They got to feel like it's worth their time and money to come to these things. And one of the ways we can keep costs down too is going on to Coast Guard bases, and that's a challenge in its own right. I think you got to play by their rules, uh, but that's another way to go.
Yeah. One of the things that we found down here, or at least I found, is like Roland suggested, if you have a Coast Guard base in your area that can possibly provide lodging for your folks. The other thing is reach out to your ITs, your instructor trainers and instructors through the ACA in your area and let them know what you're trying to get done. And more than likely, some of them, might be willing to do it pro bono or at a very reduced cost. I've had some fantastic luck with some of the instructors here in this area doing that. Now that I've got a couple of instructor trainers that are also in the auxiliary, then that's a fantastic thing as well. But yeah, anything that you can do to keep the cost down, reach out to your local parks folks and see if they won't be able to reduce the cost on if you have a state park with cabins. See if they can't work something out to reduce the cost on that. We were able to reduce the cost. We worked with a local livery down in the Miami area, and they were able to slash their costs by over half for rentals. So fantastic. If you don't ask, you don't get.
We
So
don't
that's,
have many ITs in this area, and that's one of the issues.
Um,
Like even the Oxpad Academy that's going to happen in Cleveland shortly is going to have an IT.
Correct. Yeah, we're just instructors. We're getting people uh to that paddlecraft operator level.
so so this is there's another thing I'd like to see. It's kind of a different topic, but one thing I'd really like to see is when we get people that are instructors, uh, really like to see those people teaching. Uh, so, especially when we get new instructors, Chris Howe, I'm talking to you. uh, uh, we want to create opportunities for you to get out there and use that qualification. And I think I think we can. It's a win-win. I think you get the teaching experience, and we can offer a better academy. I think when we got multiple instructors involved. So
I
there's
just
two
had
hands up here, Michelle.
Yeah, I just had a quick question, and it's kind of more geared towards like Mark and Chris. And do you think some of the challenges that we face getting our um programs up and running and getting the new members and everything has to do with the short season that we have? Because it seems like almost you get them trained and the season's over. They don't get to get into that nuts and bolts for another full year to get into, being able to go out on patrols or doing events and things like that. Do you think that having that trainee designation would help any?
I think that
I'll speak up. So yeah, it is a short season, but I got started in January with David McPherson at the Norwalk High School pool every Sunday. $30, 3 hours. I mean, you sort of can't beat that. So yeah, we do have the disadvantage of much shorter season, colder water, blah de blah. But I think there might be ways to work around that.
Yeah, see here in the area that Holly and I are primarily in, there's not a lot of school districts there's not a lot of places that have indoor pools.
Mm.
So that puts us being further north in a little bit more of a disadvantage.
I think it is. I just support that. I think it is a disadvantage and a challenge. The pool solution is it might be an area that we can all concentrate on and see what we learn. Like I've learned up here, there are a couple of YMCA's that will arrange for pool time if it's booked ahead. I think I'm going to have to just take responsibility to look for it. I've tried to develop a list of, there are a couple of ACA and or British Kayak Union instructors who teach pool classes. And so I think it's just going to take some legwork because I agree. I mean, it's June and the bay water temperature here is, depending on how deep the water is 57 to 62 degrees. It's very limiting in terms of even the on-water training that can be done. So we train on lakes, but for where the need is, Narragansett Bay, for in particular, and some of the coastline, cold water coastline. So pool things might keep people, a bit more engaged because you can really focus on skills. And I know, Chris has found some resources in Connecticut. I think I just have to put it on my to-do list to try to find some of that. I think that's part of it. It also goes to the budget and the funding. I was away with my wife this April, but I would have definitely gone to the April session and I would have paid for it myself because it was so good. And it goes to what other people are saying. This has got to be like your must do for your discretionary income for the year is you got to get down and paddle with your colleagues on the water. I was able last year to get the Gold Side to have us fund four people to go to academies and in warmer climates. But I think you're identifying a significant challenge. Although it was fun. We taught two classes. The ones with the state were in January and February. So I think we shouldn't hold back on our shoreside stuff. I have a great picture that I start the presentation off with a guy in a kayak on a ski slope. And then I just tell the people in the audience to go change into their swimsuits and they get a shocked look on their face, but then we roll into the curriculum. But I think you're one of my big takeaways, what I'm hearing here when people talk about fun and interest is really, I got to remember marketing this as much to auxiliaries and AuxPad team members as marketing education to the general public. And I'm not sure I've put as much effort into that as I could to keep how do we keep people excited in the winter months? And many years ago, I had an office in Cleveland, so I know what the lake looks like that time of year.
Hey,
Margaret,
Roland, can I weigh in here for a minute?
Margaret's
Yeah.
had her hand up there. Yeah.
I just wanted to say that we were very fortunate to use Trayson's pool at Cape May, or we would not have had any on the water time because we can't go out until the water's 65 degrees by our district's rules. That's quite prohibitive, and we're not allowed to use dry suits. So the insurance issue became when I was starting to look around for pools. There are a few college natatoriums and Ys and things like that, but my kayak club trains in one of them, and they cautioned me that they require a very hefty insurance coverage, which was the prohibiting factor, which led us to ultimately go to the Trayson pool. The pool is good, and the Trayson pool is a 50-meter pool, so it was quite much better than the pool that we actually train in for the club. But it's not sufficient. There are so many issues with reading water and the environment that need to be addressed that to properly train somebody, you have to get them out in the real environment they're going to be paddling in. So this is a deficiency that we all face in the North. And um, like everybody else already chimed in with some good thinking around it. Maybe we could all combine our efforts and come up with a better solution. The ability to train a little earlier in a little colder water in dry suits would be a great thing. But then that's another very significant purchase that people would have to make because we are not being provided with any equipment here. So I don't see that happening.
I want to
Thank
make sure everybody's aware that we are an ACA affiliate organization. And under that arrangement that we used in Charleston recently, and we're using again in Yorktown, the training that Joey and I are doing up there, uh, we we basically get the standard ACA insurance, and as long as everybody's a member of the ACA, there's no additional charge. Uh, and then if you want, if you need what they call additional insured, like if the pool owner wants insurance, there might be an additional expense. But if you're running into insurance issues and you want to do things as an ACA, if you want to train members in the ACA curriculum, uh, we have a pretty good vehicle to handle the insurance. So I think that should be something that you're aware of, and that if you need to talk about that, give me a call, and I can walk you through that.
Thank you, Roland.
Yeah. Joey, did you have any comments that you wanted to share here?
Been enjoying the conversation. Folks are bringing up some issues and some creative ways of addressing them. The pool thing is a fantastic direction. We have to, though, this is a Scots Hispaniac. We can't lose sight of what we actually are here for. We're not here for actually learning skills and going out there and doing that, although that's an important. We're here to change behavior of other paddlers. We're here to get them in the right mental direction so that they never put themselves in a position where they're going to need any type of things that we do. So, I mean, that's just something in the put in your back pocket, and remember that. And the reason why I bring that up is because that type of lesson can still be carried on in the winter months. You don't need to get out on the water. You can still have the classrooms. You can have the first aid. You can have a wilderness first aid training. You can talk about hypothermia, all the other things that we ask as instructors, ACA instructors, we ask our students to do presentations on and become more familiar with. And during those winter months, we can also be thinking of some of those creative ideas and what to do during our trainings. For instance, I have just ordered through Amazon a boatload of ducks that I'm going to be using at Yorktown. So I'm trying to figure out creative ways of implementing those things. It was Carol Holcomb and I, when we were in August, when we were at Orlando. Her and I both have purchased this book about all the kayak games that you can do for kayaking, not only for kids, but for adults. It's kind of the Ashley Brown mentality. What do you need to do to keep people excited? You can't think of those things when you're sitting in the seat of your kayak. You have to have that preparation beforehand. So the winter months allows us to do that. But other than that, I've been listening to the discussion, to the challenges. I like Mark's, I think Mark said this without saying it, and it's to surround yourself with great people, great and wonderful people. And that's what we've done with you folks. You guys are wonderful, getting the word out, leaning on the community. And now we have to, I think what Chuck said, surround yourself within your division with good people, smart people, and getting them involved. And that's part of what we're doing here. It's interesting, all the similar challenges that we're faced with, and just finding creative ways to make it happen. I'm here to help and discuss, and if there's anything that folks want to give a call about private, please, I make myself available.
I think I would be remiss if I didn't mention the swimming event in National Harbor this week. I think Guy, I think you were involved in that too. Were you out on that patrol?
Yeah, I was there too. I had, I guess, the first leg. Joey had the second leg.
So
it's a three-legged course, sort of.
So Joey's the Oxpat Ashore guy, and he just gave an impassioned plea for Oxpat Ashore. But Joey did a rescue in a swimming competition in National Harbor, and I think, I'm assuming everybody, all of our Oxpatters out there that were on that patrol, were enjoying themselves and feeling fulfilled as part of that event. But you're finding ways to get people on the water and have a good time, I think, too.
Definitely. With that swim event, and it was a collaborative effort. There were long distance swims, and the water, someone mentioned, I think it was Margaret, the water was 61.7 degrees or something like that. So the call went out for a swimmer needing assistance. I just happened to be nearby. We did the swimmer tow rescue to another OPVAC facility, made a transfer and got the individual to shore who was under hypothermia. He was having issues. But I had opportunities as I'm paddling to the individual. I was making decisions because there was an island behind me, how to get to the island, but that didn't do it. So just going through those scenarios, and I think some of the HCA ITEs I've dealt with have always talked about, don't have a plan B, have a plan C and a D and an E, because if it doesn't work out, you've got to be semper gumby and go in a different direction. But we made it happen, and hopefully some good will come out of this, because afterwards we didn't get a lot of great shots, but there's one picture of I'm doing the swimmer tow rescue and the swimmers on the bow of my boat, and I wrote it up and telling everybody what I'm doing. And some of the folks that were on the power boat have never seen this maneuver before. And some of these folks in the OPVAC facility, they were of the nature that they would poo-poo Oxpad. But after seeing this and going, oh my God, this is what you guys do. And I said, yeah, this is exactly why we are out there. This is what the skill sets that we have. And this is how we put it to use. So when I talk to folks about, you have to take the command of the situation and tell the swimmer exactly what he or she is supposed to do and where to go. That's exactly what you want to do, because that's what some of the folks were asking me. Well, how did you get him to where he was? And the first thing, you're doing when you're addressing somebody with hypothermia is to make sure that the mental state, the capacity, all those are there. Because that was one of the questions asked of me. I said, because if the swimmer didn't have the capacity, I was going to switch to plan B and do some other things. Paddle straps are good. Cam straps are good. I happen to have a throwable on my kayak. I was talking with some folks today. Pool noodles may be of importance during those type of things. So the swimmer was in a Speedo. There was nothing else to grab him or her if he or she went in the water. So just stacking it up so that you had a bunch of tools at your disposal. But some of the Oxpad powerboat folks had never seen that done, came to me afterwards and talked to me about what it was we were doing and how they were doing it. So hopefully we made some believers out of what we do and why we exist. That's my story, and I'm sticking with it.
Well, I think that's a really good thing to wrap up on. It was a very impressive rescue, I think, that you and your colleagues did. And I think it sort of puts the program in a really good light, I think, and that's part of what we're trying to do here.
And one thing I can add to is I just got back, you can see that, from the Chesapeake Bay Bridge swim.
Yep.
But I was on a powerboat facility. But the race committee had a bunch of kayaks escorting, the swimmers, for the race. I don't think we were invited for that, but we had a whole bunch of power facilities doing the outer perimeter, chasing, jet skis and stuff out of the area, and the helicopters chased the cigarette boats. But they were using kayaks, and for these swims, kayaks is the best thing.
Yeah,
to
they've
have.
got a long history. The Chesapeake paddlers I know have been involved in that for years.
Yeah, I've done a bow rescue like that at a swimming event, triathlon.
Yep.
Standard, we rim the course, keep them moving along, keep them from getting confused, and intervene when they need help.
Well, Mark, I want to thank you for sharing your experience, and I think it really is. I think we're all dealing with a lot of the same issues, and it's very helpful to sort of talk through these things and understand what you and everybody else is doing. So thank you.
Appreciate the motivation of the team. Without this team, can't be a lone ranger. You got to have the support of this whole crew.
That's right. So.
Yeah, I think it's
Everybody.
important we do these meetings.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Good
Have a good
night.
evening.
Yeah.
Everybody.
Thank you.
Okay, goodbye.
Hey, Roland, it's Lowell.
Hey, Lowell, how are you? I'm gonna
Good. Do you